Sweet.
Oh, there's a studio that I heard about, huh? It's legit. All right,
It is legit. I don't fuck around.
Clearly. All right, I'm just gonna push this live on Facebook. Give me a
it's fine.
hot second here.
Oh, see, you screwed up. You could have had the right choice for the beverage.
Oh, what do you want out there?
I got a Bouchain Vineyard 2017 Pinot Noir, actually.
Do you live in Napa or you just love wine?
God, no, if I lived in Napa, I'd have some extreme problems. No, I'm in Phoenix.
Where are you at, Jim?
In Phoenix.
Okay, cool.
It kind of prevents me from drinking in the summertime, although I do have some whites, but pretty much the summer keeps me from going full bore.
We're live on Facebook now. I'm just trying to pull up the stream so I can see some questions coming in. But we are live here with David again, my partner at the Blueprint. Say hi, David.
Hey, how's everybody going?
Jim Christian. Jim, do you want to give us an intro about yourself? Tell us what you're up to.
Ooh, the lowdown. Yeah, I can give people a little bit of history. So originally I was the director of SEO for GoDaddy for almost a decade, and then decided to start my own agency, Blush. And then as part of a component to Blush, I really wanted to focus on education and trying to give back to the community, since that's pretty much where I learned everything. And so started Advanced Search Summit, originally Napa Summit, but we wanted to grow out of Napa, so we needed to change the name. So Advanced Search Summit started about 5 years ago. I've been doing it ever since.
That's awesome, man. And I wanted to have you on here because David and I we have a community called the Blueprint Training. We've got almost 1,000 people in the Slack group now.
Nice.
And we've been getting asked, I've been getting a lot of messages about doing some sort of live event. And selfishly, I wanted to pick your brain a little bit to see if there's anything I can steal from you. Because I've had small like meetups before, 20, 40 people, a one-off thing. I've had like a mastermind one time with 20 agencies that came down to Miami, which was really cool. But I've also friends with a lot of people who have done conferences at the scale that you have. And every time they're just like, it's a whole different process, buddy. Like it's not even the same thing. I mean, can you talk a little bit about kind of like getting Advanced Search Summit off the ground and like going through that first year and what it was like?
Do you want the discouraging factors, or do you want?
I want the truth.
Yes,
you know what?
yes,
I want the
100%.
truth because honestly, I feel like a lot of people have the wrong idea about conferences. They think this is just what I've been told, and you can, debate me. They think that they're going to make a lot of money off of it because they're charging a couple $1,000 per ticket.
I love those people. They're funny.
It's funny, right? I mean, I don't know because I've never had them, but like, I feel like they're kind of like weddings, right? You go in thinking you're going to spend 20, 30K. Next thing you know, it's 150.
It's not even that. It's the hours. It's the man hours involved in like trying to come up with something like every single year. But yeah, I mean, I can tell you what I've learned at least, and a real honest approach to, what it is and what it takes to do this. It is quite scary at scale. And I can start from like the first one. So like literally the catalyst for all this, like I said, was to try to provide education for people that I kind of got by talking to a lot of my friends in the industry, but never, like for me, it was always like enterprise, right? Since I was at GoDaddy, I wanted to meet other enterprise people. So like I met Jeff Preston over at Disney and some other folks. And I really wanted to kind of give back to that same crowd. And the easiest way for me to do that conceptually was, I'll just throw a conference. That'll be easy. So the first conference we had, I was with my partner Raj at the time, and I was like, what we need to do? We need to have this in Napa. And he's like, why would we have this in Napa? That makes absolutely no sense. I was like, well, but I like wine, and I think other people will like wine too. So like, let's do it there. And I think I convinced him or got him drunk. It was one of the two, but we decided to throw the first one over in Napa 5 years ago, and it was okay. We didn't have any audio video equipment. Like we had the video like for the presentation stuff, but we didn't have like any speakers or microphones or anything. And it was really hard to hear people. But it started off with like 65 people, I think. And so through the years, we've obviously been ramping up our total numbers. I think this year we're aiming towards 200 to 250, which is pretty large for us. We just got through with DC. That was 200. We had 3 tracks for the first time. So that was a whole new ball of wax for us as well. But to say that you're going to be rich or that you're going to make a ton of money for the amount of time and effort that you put into it is a total joke.
If I can pry into that real quick, so you don't have to answer it. I don't want to know the exact numbers, but did you make money on the conference?
We've always been profitable.
Oh, nice. Good for you. Good for you.
There's times where, and like, I'll say this too, like I've never taken a dime out of the conferences. So every dollar that we've made since inception, we've always put back into the conferences, and that's how we make it bigger. Eventually if there is a payoff of like, we have 500 people, multiple shows a year, then yeah, okay, we'll be making money and we can do whatever we want with that. But it's challenging in a whole bunch of different levels. And for me too, like I've been to SMX many times. I've been to PubCon many times, and I was just actually at Ungagged and saw how they run their show. And everyone seems to have a different take on what they deem is important. And I think that for me and for my partners, TJ and Joe, we kind of focus on something different than every other conference that's out there. And I can kind of go into that if you want.
Yeah.
The main focus for us is that we know that speakers are going to come and go. We know that people will enjoy them, but the reality is that people will only remember your conference based off of two things. And the two things are a memorable experience that they haven't ever had before, or the people that they meet and connect with inside the conference during the social stuff. A lot of other conferences will focus on like, I don't know, they'll buy like a famous speaker. So maybe he's like $10,000 or something, and he'll be the keynote or whatever. And that's great. And people will like the fact that he's a keynote, but I guarantee you they're not going to remember a single thing about it. Unless they take notes. But generally speaking, it seems that people are more apt to have a good time if you have a memorable experience. And so, we also do, I don't know if you've heard of this or not, but we kind of do a party in Vegas every year that coincides with PubCon. And we always do it at the penthouse floor of the Cosmo. And, you've got this sprawling view of Las Vegas at night with every, hotel that you can see as far as you can see. And it's this thing of like people congregating on the balcony and talking about digital marketing and SEO and EPC. They're going to remember that versus remembering anything else. And so that's what we try to recreate with all of our events.
Just for the record, because I know you're going to be excited about this, Jim, because we discussed before you came on your setup and how you were excited to show it. And you got a comment from Matt. He says, this guy has superb video clarity and audio, LOL. So
you know what? I probably spent, I would guess, a month trying to figure out the equipment to like make this possible.
Dude, it's hard, man. It's really hard.
And then I spent like countless weekends putting all these stupid ass wood planks up, which took forever, by the way.
They look good though.
And then I was like, oh, I need a shelf. Okay, well, what am I going to put on the shelf? I was like, oh, I'll just find knickknacks of like all sorts of crap. And then, the lighting and everything, like you can't see the lighting, but there's like a huge boom light. I've got 2 lights up there too. And obviously these things in the back too, but yeah, it's, thank you.
I'm sensing a theme in your life here of committing to larger things than you want to do and just like taking them on piecewise. Like,
it's actually that does touch on a lot of my personality, but like my personality is that you can't tell me that you can't do something. Anything in life is possible. You just have to have commitment and drive to succeed with it. And, the conferences are a big part of that as well. There's been times where we were like, dude, we don't have enough people coming to this conference. Like we need to step it up. What are we going to do? And we just reach out in every single possible direction that we can and just try to do the best that we can getting, attendees in. And it's worked out luckily every single year. And, we've been growing at a pretty good clip, but it is challenging. It's not easy.
Going back to your point earlier that you made, Jim, I actually don't go to many conferences. I would love to go to more. I go to some. I'll probably go to like 2 a year. I don't know if that's a lot or a little. But I do find that the conferences to me that are the best. I mean, let me say this. is that I find in our industry is that a lot of the if you go to a couple conferences, a lot of the talkers are actually recycled, right? And they'll use the same deck, and they have to, right? If you're talking to more than one conference, it's a mind fuck for how hard it can be sometimes, right?
Yep.
But so in your experience then, when you talk about doing that something different, I mean, I agree that kind of the community, the connections that you make there, like I go to conferences it's not that I don't care about the people on stage, but I probably heard their talk before in some way or another. I'm really there to meet people and to talk to people, and to just kind of like, have a beer with people that I've seen on Twitter for the last 5 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you think, and I'm just giving you my opinion, but is that something that you see as a player? Like how many people are like super into go there specifically for like, I came here to learn?
I think there's something that you have to do first. So there's multiple answers to the questions that you were kind of posing. So the first thing is like, there's different kinds of people that come to the conference. So let's just take like a pretty decent conference. Let's take like SMX Advanced for an example, right? SMX Advanced is in Seattle. It's a great show. I've been to it multiple times. The setting is phenomenal. For me, especially being in Phoenix, June in Seattle is like
yeah.
freaking pipe dream that you just want to live in forever. But the thing is that they have a beautiful setting. The people that go there are looking for advanced information. And you'll find that most of the attendees have been in the industry for probably 5+ years. You wouldn't see someone like, this is my first show. I mean, there's probably some of them, but my guess would be most of the people have been there for quite a bit of time. Similar to like our show too. Like we generally speaking wouldn't get someone to our show in Napa that is less than a manager. So it's typically manager, director, VP, or CEO or CMO. They've been in the industry for probably 10+ years. They've seen and heard a lot of the talks that people give. And for them, they'll sit through a talk and they'll be like, oh, here's like a little nugget where, I can do something a little bit faster, or, here's a shortcut for this. And that's fine. And it's good. But the reality is that they're looking exactly for what you just kind of touched on, which is they're looking for the connections with the people that could potentially help them further their career in answering like stupid questions that they may not be able to, get. And the presentations, at least for us, we always ask for new presentations or to gear the presentation specifically towards a mid-market or enterprise brand. So that way it's not the same talk, because generally speaking, like if you were to take like a PubCon or a general SMX show, the audience is going to be greener. They're not going to understand some of the advanced topics, or maybe they will, but and it's going to be a topic that is shopped around from show to show. And we've had it where we've gotten a same talk that was given at a show previous, but it's very rare for us to have the exact same material.
Sure. And I feel like the good speakers too know how to kind of bend it to crowd. I mean, I feel like the people who do reuse the decks over and over again are using those for more talking points, and they're also kind of spinning off. I mean, that's what I do. If I give the same talk, I'm kind of adapting it to who I'm talking to in the audience.
Well, hold on. So one of the things that we noticed too is that I think we do things a little bit differently as far as picking speakers. So, I mean, I don't know the full process for all of these other shows, but I can tell you ours. Ours is that we get probably 200 to 300 submissions for a speaker. We generally have like 20 to 30 speaking spots open. So the chance of getting into our show is very, very hard to begin with. Secondary to that, once we get all of the submissions in, doesn't matter if they're like an independent or if they're a brand or if they're an agency. They could be from any walk of life. It doesn't really matter to us. What we do is we take the name and the company off of the title and abstract of their submission, and we put it through a panel. And so the panel actually suggests what we should have at the show. And our hope is that by selecting it that way, it makes it fair for everyone. And then two, we want to make sure that whatever is at our show is something that more than just one person like myself would be interested in hearing, right? And so it's worked very well for us since inception, and we're going to continue to do it that way. I love all of my friends.
Yeah.
I'll be damned if they don't go, hey bro, spot for me over there at Napa.
I actually had a hey bro coming because that actually it makes me feel better because I applied to speak in defense too. Now that I know that you do it that way, number one, if it makes me feel great that there's no name on it, my pitch was just shit. But what I did too, and maybe you can talk to this a little bit more.
Hold on, you drum this whole thing up so we can talk about your pitch.
Yeah.
Exactly. Hey, I'm on the clock, baby. I'm working today. Come on. But in all seriousness, the pitch that I submit, it was kind of like, hey, I've got a whole bunch of things that I can talk about, this, and this. Like, you pick one, and you know, talking to other people who do that, I know it was a bad idea. It was just kind of, I saw it on Twitter, and I was like, oh, let me apply. But like, when you, like, the types of pitches that you see that come through that you guys want, is it like how hyper focused is it? Is it like how, I mean, how do you verify too? Because I feel in this space too, a lot of people will say stuff like, are you staying away from the people that are like, oh, we helped this site grow 1 million visits? Or is it more kind of like, you know what I'm saying? Like, well, how do you kind of find the topics that you see fit?
We try to tell the panel. So the panel changes every year. And we randomly select whoever wants to be on the panel. And the general consensus that we tell them is, one, we want to make sure that it could be geared towards an enterprise or a large brand. And then secondary to that, we want something that's super, super unique. And so, like, I'll give you an example of one of them. So we had over in our DC show just a month or so ago, we had Jackie from Sears, and it was how to survive bankruptcy.
Oh, nice.
super, super crazy topic. Now, probably won't come up for everyone, right? Like, a bankruptcy isn't in everyone's future as far as, you know, the company is concerned, but it is a very interesting way to kind of get an insight on something that, if it was to happen to you, like, how would you handle that? And it probably can touch on a lot of different things. She had a ton of people coming up to her after her talk, talking about, you know, hey, what about this? What about that? Another one was Simon Hestelin. He talked about like just war stories, like shit shows that happened. Like, I know that I have plenty from GoDaddy. there's no shortage of them. But, you know, those are always interesting topics too. And we tell people, you know, like, don't try to go out of your comfort zone and, you know, try to come up with some crazy topic. Just come up with something that you're comfortable with, that you're going to feel comfortable on stage with, and that you think that people will enjoy. And if it doesn't happen to be selected this year, then, you know, like, so be it. It wasn't meant for you this year, but, you know, there's always a chance next year. And one of the things that we're actually starting to do now is we're starting to vary the program so that it's not the same crap every year. So, like, last year's Napa, we had a panel that was just like a generalized panel, kind of like an Ask Me Anything kind of a deal. And, you know, like, this year we're trying to do a panel on different topics. So, like, we want to do like a duet on what was the one that Marty had? I can't remember. Well, one of them was like social media. The other one was like something else. But at any rate, we try to vary the show to make it, you know, different, so that if you do come year after year, that it's not the same thing. I know, like, next year we're talking about doing like news groups. So, like, you would have like Gannett, News Corp, LA Times, New York Times. We'd have them on a panel, like, how do news companies deal with SEO? Or another one would be what was the other one that we were talking about? I can't remember that one either. But there's a couple. Oh, travel. It was going to be on travel. So, like, how do travel companies like deal with stuff? So we're trying to vary everything year over year, and that by the way is one of the most difficult tasks that we have to deal with, but it's also one of the ones that we think drives attendees to want to come every single year. We've noticed that a lot of the shows that are out there like to cookie cut. So they try to make things repeatable year after year and make it easy on themselves. If we were smart, we would probably do that. We don't. We like to do, like I said, very unique and interesting things. Like, I'll tell you, this is actually a pretty interesting story. So I have a hot tub, and TJ, one of my partners, he comes over regularly, unfortunately for him. And we just start talking about just random shit for these shows and like, what can we do to make things interesting and unique? And so, like, one of the things we did before the site visit, I told him, I was like, you know what we need to do, since we're going to be in DC, we should have our cocktail hour over at the Swedish Embassy. He's like, I'm sorry, what did you just say? And I'm like, no, the Swedish Embassy, like, it should just be the Swedish Embassy. And he's like, why Sweden? And I was like, I don't know, it just sounds like it's a perfect place. And so we looked up a couple different embassies over in DC, and a lot of them were not open to the public for private parties or whatnot. However, for whatever reason, the Swedish embassy did have an opening for private parties, and you could physically have a cocktail hour there. And so we wound up going over to look at the whole thing. We had to go show our IDs. There was like, everyone was Swedish and they were having the accents and everything. It was great. We decided not to do it because it was really far from the venue, but you know, it's things like that. Or, you know, with Napa, we have our castle, right? The Castello di Amorosa. It's a 13th century inspired castle that's got like 107 rooms to it. Or, you know, we have Bouchain, our winery that kind of like overlooks the Bay Area. We try to have these picturesque kind of places for people to enjoy, not only because we like them, but we think that other people will like them too. So,
yeah, I feel like location, you know, if I'm, like I said, if I'm going to 1 or 2 conferences a year, I'm definitely red marking the ones that are in a place that I want to go. You know what I mean?
Well, I can tell you a horror story. You want a horror story?
Yeah, please.
So we've had Napa, you know, for 5 years. A couple of years ago, we actually decided to have a secondary show. We've been trying to have an East Coast show for a while. So a couple of years ago, I got the idea, once again in a hot tub, to go have our conference on the East Coast over in Key West, Florida. Thinking, oh, Key West, that's a hot place. Went over to Key West, tons of bars. Duval Street's amazing. It's a great nightlife there. So we booked everything. We had everything planned out. We had the hotel. We had the spot we'd have the conference. Could hold like, I don't know, 130 people or something like that. Literally about 4 weeks before the event, hurricane rolled over the key and completely wiped out. What was it? It was the airport, hospital, sewage, water, and like the ability to physically drive down to the Keys. So we had to scrap that entire thing 2 weeks before the conference. That was enjoyable.
Yeah.
And also why we moved up the coast to DC.
I was going to say, being in Miami, I heard you say Key West, and I was like, oh man, that is a tough place. I mean, not only that, but just Key West is like a very difficult place to get to.
Yep.
You either take a 1-lane highway from Miami, which takes you 4 hours. You fly into like a very tiny airport. It's challenging.
Oh,
but Key West is amazing though.
Another thing I can tell you, don't ever have a convertible where the top doesn't come up when you're driving that drive from the Keys back to Miami, because you will get completely sunburnt on the back of your neck.
That's good.
Just so you know.
Jim, you should have known this already, being such a hot tub guy, you know?
I know. I know.
You should have known that.
I know. But yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Matt,
As far as like other things, like what we look for in speakers, like we always try to get people that can be very well represented on stage. People that have like a stage presence is always a good thing. We try to, you know, be as jovial as we can and make it kind of lighthearted. But it's always good to see people that can, you know, interact with the crowd. You know, Greg Gifford is a fantastic speaker. If you've ever seen him speak, Marty Weintraub is amazing. If you've never seen him, you should. But there's a lot of great speakers that are out there. And so we try to look for that as well.
So is that like round 2 of your first, you vet like the actual topics and then you look at, you know, previous speaking history and stuff like that? Or how's that work?
Yeah. And part of our process is to look at, you know, where have they been in their, you know, career. You know, does that match up to what we're looking for? Secondary pieces, you know, if we can get some video, like a YouTube video of them speaking, so we can kind of gain like some sort of insight on how they're going to react in front of a microphone. Like I can tell you from my own perspective, I hate being on stage. Like it drives me berserk. It's just too much for me to handle. And even like this stuff, like with the camera and the lighting and all of this stuff, it took me quite a while to get really comfortable with this stuff to where I can like look at the camera and like not freak out. So it's things like that we're kind of looking for with people. We don't want them to be like awkward on stage. Like I'll tell you, we did have a speaker, I think either last year or the year before at Napa, and he was dealing with some vertigo. And it had nothing to do with like his nerves or anything, but he was just dealing with vertigo, and like he got on stage and he like was not going to make it. And so I had to rush up there and kind of like grab him and be like, okay, we're just going to have you sit down for a couple minutes and we're going to give you some water and then we'll entertain people while we get you like all situated. And, and he was really thankful for it. And he told us the whole thing about his inner ear and whatnot. And we were just like, it's okay, man. It's like, it's not a big deal. Like everyone has these things that come up and, we just roll with it. So yeah, we do look for that stuff.
Or so just another question to fire off at you.
Yeah.
If what advice would you have for someone who was looking to start their own conference, I guess, or event, right? I mean, and maybe I don't want to say start a conference like something similar to you're doing, but just
event, conference. It's
an
all
in-person event. Yeah.
It's challenging. It depends on how you run it, right? So if you run it like a typical, like if I had to redo it, right? What I would probably do if I had to redo it would be setting up like meetups to where, I don't know if you're familiar with like Bay Area Search, but they have a really strong meetup group. And I don't know how many people they get on average, but I want to say it's like close to 100, if not more. And they have like their own following. Now, granted, they're not charging for this, and or there's a minimal fee or something like that. But they've done it really, really well. They just choose not to have like a full blown event. And part of that is like if I was having a meetup, it's really easy. Hey, all we need is a big space. Like how much does a big space cost? Or, can someone donate a big space? What can we do to get that going? So that's fairly easy to accomplish. It's when you start adding things like food or AV or, transportation, things like that is where it really gets tricky and not really affordable. So, and we've had our own challenges too. Like one of the things that we noticed, and by the way, with like location is a huge ordeal. So we've noticed that like over in the East Coast, people typically don't want to spend more than $500 a ticket for going to a conference. And the reason for that is that typically in New York and in the East Coast, the conferences that they have there are generally speaking large conferences. So think like 1,000 people plus. And so once you start getting all of these, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 people, it really becomes easy to lower the cost down to $200 to $300 to $400. And so it makes it more affordable. And so when you try to come in there and say, well, our conference is $1,500, they just start laughing. They're like, no, we're not going to pay that. So you really do have to pay attention to like the location of what you're trying to, hit, and really what kind of markets. Another thing that you may find interesting too is like the number of SEOs that are in like the Northeast and the West Coast are like quadruple what you would find in like the South. So having a conference in Florida, not a smart idea on any level. Like you really have to plan on people saying, I want out of New York, or I want out of this snow. I need to come to a place that's sunny. Then Florida makes sense. But then if it's not during the winter, then that won't make sense to them. And then you'll wind up not getting any attendees. So
when you come, first of all, what is your price point per ticket and then VIP?
Price point right now, I think is $8.99 and $11.99 or something close to that. We have a Black Friday sale going on right now for our tickets. So until the end of the month, tickets.
We'll definitely plug in that for you. But just so, and when you come up with that pricing, is that based on the market, competitors, or is it based on your costs and then what you need to break even?
You want the truth?
I want the truth.
Let me take a sip of my wine first.
Take a big one.
The truth is that I always wanted to make my shows less expensive than SMX. That was my goal.
Gotcha.
I want to put on a better show and have it cost less than SMX or SMX Advanced.
What is their price point?
Dude, it's expensive. I think it's like $2,000 or maybe a little bit more than that on a full ride. I mean, I remember when I was at GoDaddy that going to SMX was generally speaking $4,000, and that included the plane flight, the hotel, and the ticket. So a $4,000 commitment for a company to send someone, they better be learning something really important when they get there. And for us, I always wanted to make it less. And the other thing was too, is just like a kind of like a pride thing. Like I know that I can do a better show, and I know that I can make it cheaper. And I know that everyone will have a way better time than if they went to that show. That was really the catalyst for it. And the prices change year over year. I mean, we used to be cheaper, but the reality is that we keep making the show better. I mean, it's not cheap to buy a barrel of wine and bottle it up and send it off to all of the attendees, which we're doing this year. Which, by the way, it's going to be Bacon Ipsum wine. It's going to be phenomenal.
Exciting.
But it's stuff like that. Like we come up with like our gift bag as an example. So like if you went to SMX or some other show, you'd probably wind up with a gift bag that would cost them somewhere around $20, and ours is somewhere between $50 and $80. And for us, we just want to again have that higher class, that better experience. They bring home a bottle of wine, and they don't drink it for a year or something like that. And then all of a sudden they open it up. They're like, oh yeah, I got this from Advanced Search Summit, dude. It was such a great time. And then they drink the bottle of wine and they're like, holy shit, this is really good wine. And then again, that memory continues for them. They remember the show. They remember they got this bottle of wine, and now it's a fantastic bottle of wine that they can enjoy again. And hopefully that drives them back to our show year over year.
And that's, you're in year 5 of this, right?
Yep.
And you're reinvesting in the show every year, so you can do stuff like that. That's not something you'd have done like year 1 if you were just starting, right?
God, no. Year 1, I don't even remember if we. Oh no, you know what? I'll show you what we had for year 1. Year 1, we had these Napa Summit coasters, and I was really freaked out for whatever reason to include a bottle of wine, because I was like, dude, these people are going to be coming here with their non-checked luggage, and if I give them a bottle of wine, every single person is going to have to check their bag because they'll have to stuff it in there. And I felt really bad. So I got olive oil, what was it? Like olive oil, some peppers and truffles and some other stuff, but it was all little under 3.4 ounce stuff. And it was just a hodgepodge of crap. And I think by year 2 or year 3, I was like, screw it. We're just going to send a bottle of wine. It's super easy for us. And it's, something that they'll enjoy later on.
Man, you are a host with a capital H.
Well,
really thoughtful stuff.
Well, and this goes with my business too. I always come from the standpoint okay, well, if I was attending this, or if this was my business, how would I want to have it done for me? And I want it different. I want it unique, and I want it something that people are going to remember. And you don't get that from a lot of shows. You really, really don't. And it's the attention to details too. One of the things that we're doing for our VIP ticket holders for Napa this year is this is so stupid. This is another hot tub conversation. But we decided that we would get the leading falconer in California. This sounds so bad. We decided that we would get the leading falconer in California. She happens to do the I guess you would call it pest control for our partner winery, Bouchain. She does the pest control for them. So she has falcons and hawks that she flies around the property to keep all the starlings and the other birds from coming on the property. And if you've been to Napa, you've inevitably heard these big booms across the valley. And the booms they're propane guns that basically pop off to scare all the birds away. And for Bouchain, their kind of mantra is to try to be as natural and good to the environment as possible. So they get this lady, and she goes and flies her birds of death out to the fields. And so one of the things that we're going to do for our attendees is they can fly a hawk. So everyone's going to put on a falconer glove, and they're going to have a hawk and probably a little sip of vino at the same time while overlooking the whole San Francisco Bay Area. You can't repeat that. That's something that you cannot get anywhere else, whether you're at a conference or not. It's super difficult. Is she expensive? Hell yeah, she is. Is it worth it? Of course. I've always wanted to fly a hawk. Who wouldn't? So it's stuff like that where you just, it keeps people entertained, and it has them coming back year over year. And so that's kind of our thing.
It's so awesome how you've built this perfect vessel for you to just express fun. You know what I mean? You've kind of built this almost a golden cage for yourself.
Yeah. The whole thing of trying to go to Napa, it was hey, I like wine. Well, why not have it there? Then I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I can get all of this wine that I need every single year, and I can have a conference at the same time.
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm not even joking on this. We've been trying to figure out Maui for the last 3 years. And I'm not joking. We've literally I can tell you where I would have it. I can tell you how we would do it. All of this stuff. We've just been trying to make it work. It's a $3,700 ticket. And I don't know if that's going to be feasible for a lot of folks, but literally Maui would be the next thing.
That would be amazing though. I would be there for sure. I mean, cause I look at it this way too, is we're all busy, and is that if you get the opportunity to combine work with where you want to go personally, you can kind of justify killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Yep. And it's a business cost too, technically. So if you have your own company, you're writing off a lot of that a lot of that travel as a business expense, you know?
Yeah, we do. Site visits, man. They're the best. And I will tell you, one of the main benefits of having it in Napa, we do this every year. We go out there a couple of days before, and we always are looking for new and exciting venues because we don't want to cookie cut the same thing every single year. So we'll go to a lot of different wineries that are out there that could potentially host not the conference per se, but like our cocktail hour or our main dinner. And it's great because you basically call them up and say, hey, look, I have like 100 to 200 people that we want to do this thing for. And then all of a sudden, like, it's really strange. The wine bottles start opening up and you get all of this wine poured for you. And you're just like, well, what do I owe you for the tasting? And they're like, no. This is on it. Please enjoy. And by the fourth or fifth one that you go to, you're like, this was a really good idea at the beginning, but and poor TJ last year, he had to drive us around as a sober man, and he was not thrilled with that. So he wants to hire a driver for this year.
That's probably a good idea.
It's that kind of stuff. It's fun for us, right? Like, again, trying to do the two birds with one stone and make it fun and entertaining for us and fun and entertaining for our attendees too.
I don't think you could. I mean, I've never thrown an event of the scale that you guys are throwing at this point, but it seems like you can't do it if you don't find like a ton of fun in it. Other than that, it would just be a drag.
I mean, some people do it, like, my own personal belief, right, is that I've never really been driven by money. I've always been driven by experiences. And this has been my kind of thing for years and years and years. It's like, at the end of the day, when I look at my last day on earth, I'm going to say, what did I did? Or what did I do? Like, did I amass a bunch of money and, I'm rich and powerful or whatever? Or did I have all of these experiences along the way? And for me, like, I want those experiences. It's like, it's irreplaceable for me.
But and how does your agency fare from the conference? Especially too, it sounds like you're getting more in-house people and enterprise folks than agency folks.
Yeah, I mean, we do get some agencies. I would say on a general basis, we probably have like 5 or maybe 10 agencies attending. They're generally like larger agencies for the most part. And then the rest of them are enterprise. We get 0 mom and pop shops. So you'll never see like a brick and mortar business that's there. It's always someone that has multiple locations if they are a brick and mortar. But it's generally speaking, mostly enterprise and mid-market businesses that are either on the West Coast or, I mean, we do get people internationally as well, but, the crowd is very, very precise. And we aimed for that market, but it is strange how it's kept its pace throughout the years that we've been doing the conference. I thought for sure, like, we would get more agencies coming in and sharking all of our attendees, but that hasn't happened. And I think, if we were to get to that point where there was too many agencies and it felt like a Shark Tank walking in, like, we would only have a certain amount of agency tickets available. Like, that's how far we're willing to go. We want to create an environment where people feel welcomed, that they feel comfortable in, and that it's not like everyone's badge hunting for leads, right? And even with our sponsors too, like, we've had some sponsors in the past where, there was like this one guy, he went and he was basically like sales pitching during his talk, and we told him not to do it in the first place. We're like, dude, this is not going to work well if you do this. And sure enough, it didn't. It went south for him, and he didn't get very many leads, and he never came back to sponsor the show, which, is unfortunate. But, we always tell everyone, like, there's enough time in our conference to meet every single person, and it will always be that way. There will always be a way for you to meet and talk to every single person so that you don't necessarily have to hand them a business card or scan a badge or something like that. It's always an approachable event, and we plan on keeping it that way. And if we find out, like, I'll give you an example, like, if we were to say grow it to like 700 people and that process was not still available for everyone, we would probably lower the number of attendees back down and open up a secondary event for it, and just say, look, Napa is capped off at 500 people or 300 people or whatever it is, right? And then just move on to another event.
What do your sponsorship opportunities look like?
Pretty good. They're looking pretty amazing.
I've been so.
If anyone wants to contact me, they're more than welcome to.
Well, I'm interested. So I'm a marketer. I like to spend a lot of money, and David and I have a piece of software that we're getting ready to take to market. Nice. That is a perfect fit for anyone enterprise, number one, but also agencies is kind of our main target. And I've always felt like, and also our training platform too, because it's for agencies, but I've always felt like conferences, man, if you can get like a solid deal at a place where the attention isn't too overpriced, like HubSpot's a little bit out of control, but they just have a lot of foot traffic.
Yeah.
But I looked at their sponsorship package and I just did some basic math and I was like, man, just based on the foot traffic coming by here, if you get somebody who can just grab attention in your booth and then just, if you're a decent salesperson, I feel like you can make a good return. And I know some software companies, that's also why I know that all the same SEO software companies are at every single conference, because that sponsorship works. I think it depends on what point you're at, you know what I'm saying, in what type of marketing budget that you have. But what do you guys have available? Do you have like booths? Do you have like it sounds like your sponsors might speak.
Yeah. And also what have you seen work really well from a sponsorship perspective or not work? So,
I can tell you like kind of my two thoughts on it. There's two different types of conference sponsorship opportunities that you can kind of go along the lines with. One of them is like try to sell everything. So like you can have your label on a bottle of water, or you can have a sticker as an insert into a backpack that no one will ever find. Or, it could be something like, our sponsorships start at $10,000 and go up to $150,000. And it's like, who the hell is going to spend $150,000 and get enough out of that to like make it worth it? Like that's impossible
to do it again. Yeah.
Yeah. It just seems, especially like year over year, right? From what we've noticed is that sponsors really want foot traffic, and we've kind of helped them envision kind of like what we're aiming for, which is it's not the amount of foot traffic that you can get, it's the quality of the foot traffic. And without naming names, there was one company in particular that's a very large software company that wanted to look into sponsoring one of our shows. And so we told them like how many people we have at the show, and and they were like, oh, well, that's really, really low. We can go over to this show and we can get 1,000 people or 6,000 people or whatever. And we were like, okay, well, that's great. What you're going to do at that show is you're going to have a bunch of booth people. You're going to have one of the badge scanners, and you're going to just scan everyone's badge. Hey, come over here. Let me scan your badge. Hey, come over here. Let me scan your badge. Scan your badge. Scan your badge. And then they're going to take all of those names. They're going to put them into an email marketing campaign, and they're going to market to every single one of those people until they all unsubscribe. And that is the dumbest thing that you can do. And it goes to the point where you just really, as a marketer, don't understand marketing. The thing that drives people, and one of my my main people that I kind of look towards with this is like Simon Sinek, right? So if you ever have a chance, listen to Simon Sinek. He's really, really a brilliant person when it comes to human behavior. But the reality is that people, like, I'll give you an example. If all three of us went to, let's say, France independently, right? We were all in Paris and we happened to just run into each other at a restaurant. We would normally gravitate to each other because if we were to talk, because, oh, you're in Florida. Oh, dude, I've been to Miami. That's great. Oh, I went to this one place one time and they were serving pig ears and it was like an amazing restaurant. Loved it. It was so good. Or, you talk about, oh, I'm in Phoenix and man, great golfing over there. Like you immediately try to connect with those people with the commonalities that you have. And so that drives the human behavior to want to connect and to bond with those people. And so if you go to a show or you create a show, the thing that you have to be cognizant of is like, just scanning someone's badge isn't going to do anything for you. Not making a connection is not going to do anything for you. You really need to put in the time, the effort to connect with someone. And you're only going to be able to do that with two things. Time is one, and something that's memorable is second. Without those two things, you're never going to make that connection, and you're just going to be another person that's trying to sell them on something. And so that never works. It probably works to some degree, but generally speaking, you'll get a higher rate of return if you actually spend time with people. And so again, that's what we're trying to do with our shows, is to try to make it, digestible for both attendees and sponsors, and also create those points of connection. Like, I can tell you, like, one of the things that we're offering this year is a prospect dinner, right? And so I haven't seen any other show that does this, but again, another hot tub conversation that we had. But it's the ability to have a sponsor say, okay, well, we're willing to spend, $10,000 or whatever it is on this prospect dinner. We would give them the list of attendees that are coming to the show, and they could go say, oh, well, these are some great prospects. Let's bring these 10 people to the show or to this dinner. And then they have that sit down conversation that they want with these people before the show, before anything happens, so that they can actively connect with them. And so those are the kind of sponsorships that we're interested in. How can we connect our sponsors with the attendees that are coming? Like we have the castle sponsorship as an example too. So, like you come and you come to the castle, we give you like a 10 or 15 minute toast. So you're toasting everyone, like everyone raise your glasses of champagne, come see us. We're here to talk. And then they have like an hour or two, especially at the castle where there's all these little nooks and crannies that you can kind of go into, that they can pull people aside and have those conversations. And that's really important for both attendees and sponsors. I got this nailed down. I don't know how I learned, by the way. From drinking awesome wine, or it's just dumb luck. I haven't figured it out yet.
Just by doing it, it sounds like you've just done the work.
Or I'm just weird.
What? Sounds like you just dive into the. Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
I was just talking on mute for like 2 minutes. I just had one quick question off the back of that, Jim. So just because David and David didn't want to do the sponsorship, which I agree with, not at your comps, at a different one, but generally speaking, if it's done right, do advertisers see a good return
at our conference?
Yeah,
or just in general?
I mean, you can't speak for other ones, yeah. At yours,
I think at ours they definitely do. I mean, we've been told multiple times from our sponsors that they don't get like a huge amount of leads just because the number of people there, but the leads that they get close.
Yeah.
Repetitiously, year over year.
Yeah. I just
never been a question.
It's as we move into the next year, and we're going to go through like a budget planning exercise for marketing spend next year. And one of the things that I definitely want to test out is doing a conference. I feel like,
yeah, I think
hi, David.
my thinking with conferences and spending as we're budgeting is either plan to do multiple conferences in a year so that we can spread cash around and like get, do we diversify our return from them, or experientially diversify to get different flavor, or pick specific conferences and commit to doing them for multiple years to at least see like, can we get return year over year?
Yeah, it's so what you're saying is really challenging. I can tell you my thoughts on it is that the location really matters. It has to be a place where people want to normally gravitate to, or at least for us, a unique location that you can't really get anywhere else. I've seen conferences like, let's just say that you were to throw it in New York, right? What's going to be special about that? Like really, what is going to be special? You're getting a room, you're getting speakers, and you're getting people to show up to see those speakers.
Yeah.
Outside of that, it's just New York. And it's a huge pain in the ass to like get around in New York and to deal with all of the like, garbage on the sides of the sidewalk. And then that's not, how memorable is that going to be, right? Or, you could go do, what would be another shit location? Like Las Vegas would be another one. I would never have a show in Las Vegas. I hate that place. It drives me nuts. And like most of the marketers that I know have like some, and I'm not speaking for everyone, but some of them, including myself, have like ADD. And when I start hearing ding, 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 dude, I'm out. Like you put some headphones on me where I can't hear any of that shit. I don't want to walk around it. I don't want to be around it. I don't want to gamble. And I'm of course one person out of many, but like that stuff drives me berserk. So I'd much rather go to a nice, quiet place. I mean, I'll tell you one of the locations that we thought of. I don't know if it would ever work out, but like we really thought about having it in Wyoming and having it in Yellowstone Park. How awesome would that be?
That would be amazing.
Crazy.
That type of landscape speaks to me, so I'll be there in a heartbeat, honestly.
Yeah. And right, and you'd be like the perfect person. Other people be like, oh, I like the city, I like, all the action and stuff like that. But for me, like, and I think for a lot of the people in our industry, like they just want a nice place where it's peaceful, right? Like I just want to be somewhere where it's really nice. Yeah. Our Maui thing, if we ever do that, dude, it's one of the most peaceful locations I've ever been to on this planet. It's so quiet.
Well, I think that's really why, like the core of why you guys have been successful and will continue to be, is that you're attracting the right people to your conference, right? For the right reasons.
Yeah.
The fact that you only get literally like less than 5% of people going are agencies is really impressive. That's unheard of. You know, I think when events get too big, or when they're clearly done for monetary reasons, or for like, you know, just kind of like big brand bravado reasons, you know, inbound, that and I'm not talking shit. I love inbound, honestly. Like I go every year just because like it's an event, it's whatever. And I also go for free. So,
Yeah.
but like I get no value from going there at all. I don't network. I don't do it. It's too big. You know what I'm saying? It's too impersonal. And like,
Yeah, it's shock value too. Like how can you even
it's
enter in?
overwhelming. It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. And you know, you just the range of people that are there, from like a 21-year-old social media manager to like, you know, a VP of ecom at a big, it's just, it's and everything in between. But I feel like the events that I have gone to that are a little bit smaller and are more focused, just in terms of like everyone being there and just kind of like in a much more relaxed state.
Yeah.
And it's like-minded people too. I think you've done a really good job of getting the right people to those, to the events. You know, without kind of like burning it out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Again, I mean, it comes to making it not easily repeatable. For us, it's like, you know, trying to create that special environment for them, making everyone feel welcome, and also just not doing the same old boring shit. I will tell you, like part of my thing outside of the drinking the wine thing, which I love dearly, is like, I'm a huge foodie. Like I have a 1,000-pound pizza oven outside in my courtyard, and it's wood fired, and I make pizzas and bread and all sorts of stuff. I'm a huge foodie. Like I've got probably 50 cookbooks. It's probably an issue. But you know, like I remember distinctly one time going to an event, and they had like old pizza and chicken nuggets, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do this. And you know, like, and I'll give you like an example too, like SMX Advance. Seattle is probably one of the most amazing food scenes that you could probably stumble upon. Almost every single restaurant that you go into is going to have some amazing food. There's like one of my favorite breakfast places, by the way. And Matt Saltala, if you are watching this, I was the one who originated Biscuits Bitch. Biscuits Bitch is probably the most phenomenal breakfast you'll ever have. It's like biscuits with sausage gravy and cheese, like loaded in this stupid paper plate, and it's amazing. But like if I'm going to SMX and I'm at the Bell Harbor Conference Center and I have to have the food that they serve there, like that's a travesty, literally a travesty. I would not want to waste one of my meals on that food. And it's super easy to just walk up the hill and go get something that's amazing. And so, you know, for us, we have this amazing caterer that we work with in Napa, and it's like chimichurri pork with like all of these vegetables, and TJ, if he was online, would probably attest to this. I have a new word, which is called banquety. I hate banquety food. I will never have a filet with carrots and potatoes. Like that's just bullshit. I don't like that. I'll always have something that's really crazy and creative for our attendees. And so it's just stuff like that. It's that attention to detail. And by the way, that stuff isn't cheap. It's like I could go do the pizzas and chicken nuggets, and I could go do the no castle and all this other stuff, and it would make it tremendously cheaper for us. Mm-hmm. But it's not going to be something that's someone's going to want to come back to. Or if they do come back, that's probably bad on them. Like I want to make something that's special for them. And I think it shows.
So now is a good time, Jim. Why don't you plug the conference? Tell everyone about it, where they can find more info. Tell them about the sale you got coming up.
I think I've already done that, but I'll go ahead. Thank you. Yeah, so just go to advancedsearchsummit.com. You'll see right on the site, you can go into our Napa event. Right now we're running a Black Friday special, so it's $8.99 for general admission. That gets you 2 days of conferences. There's 2 tracks each day. We've got 33 speakers. All you have to do is use the code Black Friday before the end of the month, and you'll get those prices. Our VIP tickets holders get an extra day. So the extra day is super crazy. This is kind of another thing about our conference that I think is a little bit different and unique. The VIP tickets get you that extra day. The extra day is kind of like a work-life balance day. So we bus everyone at 9 a.m. in the morning over to our partner winery, Bouchain, and we basically start feeding them wine for breakfast, which is great. But everyone gets to do like a tasting of what they have. So they have like, I think 20 different wines. So half of the people will do that. Another half will go up into the top of the hill, do the falconry experience, and then we'll kind of swap. Last year for our lunch, we had paella, and it was in this like literally like a 4-foot wide pan. It was the most phenomenal thing I've ever eaten in my life. It was just nothing but like seafood and rice just piled high. And they had some empanadas and stuff like that. But it's a really great day to just kind of like unwind. We limit it to 80 people. And so there's speakers, sponsors, and attendees included in those 80 people. Tickets for VIP right now are $1,099 with the Black Friday code. And again, all you have to do is just go to advancedsearchsummit.com. And hopefully we'll see you in April over in Napa.
Awesome. Well, Jim, I know I appreciate it. David, you can say your final goodbyes as well too. I just want to appreciate you for coming on. I know you're a busy dude. Got the agency thing going on, conference coming up. We appreciate all the people of the Blueprint. Appreciate it. We'll be getting this transcribed and pushed up to YouTube. We'll send you the final version afterwards. And yeah, man, we genuinely appreciate your time.
Yeah, no, you guys are doing a great job. I've heard a lot of great things about it. So hopefully you guys get some more subscribers and people find this talk interesting.
Definitely.
Thanks so much.
I mean, I found if they don't fuck them, I found a lot of value in it. So
yeah, super inspirational stuff, and I'm hungry now.
I'm thirsty. So cheers to you guys. I hope to see you soon. And yeah, please come to Napa.
Awesome.
Cheers, Jay.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, see you guys. Bye.
Bye.